welcome back to my channel. My name is ValentineBardot, and here we talk about spooky stuff, Halloween decor, hunting, antique hauls. I think I have an antique haul coming around the corner real soon. On the weekends, on Sundays particularly, I like to have what I call a slumber party Sunday. Tonight I figured we could finish the haunted childhood home thing that was part of like my roots. If you haven't watched the part 1 where I talk about my family and how we were kind of naturally inclined to our clairs, like certain clairs. I also want to make a caveat to that video. I want to make sure that I make the point that I believe anyone is capable of having a clair of some kind or all of the clairs. In that video, I don't know if I talk about that. I think I was more focused on just like my history and like my family's history. Anyways, but yeah, so go ahead and watch part 1, and then this is going to be part 2, my childhood home. This is probably going to be a long video. I would relax, get comfy, get cozy, grab yourself something to eat, a yummy little treat, and buckle in because it's gonna be, it's probably gonna be a long video. Traditional. This is the witch's brew. Create some ambiance. Get that scent wafting through the air. I need to come up with a name for you guys. Like I always say, like, hello my friends, or hello my darlings. I feel like I should be like, what do you guys want to be called? I feel like people have that on channels. Is that like so early 2000s? Do people not really do that anymore? I don't know. I just feel like maybe we could go with like the Valentine theme. Do y'all want to be like a coven? Like join the coven? I don't know. Baby? I think I heard my child. Also, don't mind my makeup. Like, my makeup is crazy. I just decided to have fun with it today. And it ended up being nuts and smearing. And I was like, I ain't got time to fix that shit, man. I gotta film. So tonight, we are going to finish off my Roots series and explain reasons as to why I feel like I led a bit more of an enchanted life. And today we're going to be mostly talking about my childhood home. And boy, is that a doozy. I honestly think that I would not be nearly as open-minded to the bizarre, strange, and unusual if it was not for the fact that I grew up on land that highly encouraged the strange, bizarre, and unusual. Let me go ahead and start with me being a wee child with a natural inclination towards witchcraft. Growing up, we essentially lived in the middle of nowhere, at least at the time. Now, thanks to population increasing and my small hometown becoming quite a tourist attraction, it is now not nearly as small and quaint as it once was, but when I was a child, I lived about 45 minutes out from the actual town. The home that we lived in was secluded. It was so far out to the point to where a lot of my childhood friends, their parents refused to take them to my house growing up. I did not have friends that visited me. I didn't have neighborhoods that I played in. Honestly, we had maybe 30 neighbors max, which is crazy to think about because it's like they were so far spaced and it was just like trees on trees on trees, acres on acres on acres. And I think personally we grew up on maybe 15 acres, something like that. But a lot of my neighbors, they would have like 100 acres or 30 acres or 40 acres. So that should give you a general idea of how spaced we were. We like, there was no contact. On top of that, to get to my house, you had to travel through a densely forested rocky road. So like there was no concrete, there was no asphalt, it was just rocks, hard terrain, cacti, poisonous plants, thistles. It was rough, it was brutal, and we were extremely secluded. The way we procured our house was definitely not the normal standard way you procure a house, at least not in my opinion. It's the witchy way you procure a house. So my mom was a closeted witch for 30 years, basically. So my mom and my dad, they met each other, they fell in love, they got married. And when I was born, they took me home to my mom's house because my mom was a homeowner before my papa son. She bought it when she was a single mom, taking care of her and my brother. And that was kind of like her pride and joy. She took a lot of pride in being a homeowner and being a single mom and just providing for her family. So when my dad moved in, my brother being 7 and me being a newborn and then them, my dad was like, it's time, like we need a bigger home. I'm too large for it and now our family is growing. So because my mom had to sell her dream home, you know, that little Victorian home that she had, she loved that home so much. It was her baby. And for my mom being like a single mom, like that was a big deal. So when she sold her home, she made a vow to herself. And, you know, if you're into witchcraft at all, like that's intent. Like intent is a huge part of witchcraft. And my mom made a vow that she would use the money from her baby, from the home that she loved, to provide for her family and basically secure another dream home. Mama Moon, she is a powerful woman. She wants to be, especially because she's a Pisces. All of my water signs out there, Pisces, Scorpio, and Cancer, you guys, y'all's power is rooted in emotions. So if y'all are emotionally charged, an emotional fuel behind what you practice, say, or do, it's gonna be that extra powerful. Anyways, I could go off on zodiac signs and their power, but water signs, use your emotions, okay? So that's exactly what Mama Moon did. Mama Moon used her emotions and she was like, I want another dream. Boom. I want another beautiful home for my children. Boom. I mean, just full of intent. So she put it out there that the dream home would present itself to her and my dad. And within a week, their realtor was like, hey, we found this amazing foreclosure. It is going to be up for bid though. So there would be the potential of a bidding war with another client. And my mom was like, well, let's see it. And one of her stipulations was that she wanted land. At the time, land was expensive, but it's not like it is now. So the realtor was like, it has everything you want. It is secluded, it is private, it has land. My mom and my dad get in the car and they go and they see this house, and the house is their dream home, especially my mom. My mom wanted to be able to have a garden. My mom wanted to be able to be a witchy woman outside in the wilderness with no eyes on her. And that's exactly what this home provided. So they did get into a bidding war. After like a bunch of back and forth bidding, my mom decided to drive to the house. The people who'd lived there were no longer living there. It was empty. So my mom drove to the house and she walked the perimeter, which is a classic spell move, and she walked the perimeter basically telling the land that she was going to take care of it. She vowed to the land that she would honor it and take care of it, be respectful. She walked the land and she communicated with the energies. And if you believe in animism at all, you will understand like the spirit of the place, spirit of the land, spirit of the house. And she ended up burying crystals on the property, and along with some little charm bags and spell bags with her intent. As long as it wasn't hurting anybody, this property would be hers. And the next day they got a phone call saying that the person who was in a bidding war with them dropped out. So the house was my parents, Papa San and Mama Moon. My mom secured it through magical means, and she searched for it through magical means, and she asked for a magical property where she could perform her magic in privacy and confidence and security, and that's exactly what the house ended up being. However, I don't know if my mom ever realized that when asking for a magical property, she got what she asked for. I don't want to be at all insensitive. Obviously, our land here in America is taken from other cultures and other people. I don't know how to say this without being super like, I don't know if it's insensitive. I don't know. I don't know. So if I offend anyone, please know that that was not my intention at all. So one of the main features of the property was a creek bed, and it was like a dry creek. And at one point, it was not a dry creek. And when it would rain really hard, the dry creek would fill up. And it was basically like a moat around our entire property, which was pretty cool. There was like a huge flood when I was a kid in Texas. And I remember walking out to the dry creek and it was like rapids, like just going across our house. Literally like a it was wild. It was so cool. I actually walked through it, which was probably very dangerous because I think I was 6. I was really little walking through rapids. I easily could have gotten swept away. But anyways, that dry creek, if you walked along the dry creek, you would find arrowheads, coins, and pottery. And it got to the point to where we were finding so many arrowheads that my mom and my dad, maybe there's a burial ground or something. That is just an hypothesis. I really don't know. When the house was being built, the people who lived there before us, they built that property. So it was very, very new. The house was very new. When they were building, they actually found so many arrowheads that they built the arrowheads into the house, which I'm like, that seems disrespectful AF. Like, what were y'all thinking? White stone, Texas Hill Country stone house. It had a bunch of stone pillars on the outside. There was maybe 6 arrowheads placed into the pillars. Actually, inside the house, we had 40-foot tall ceilings. If you were standing in the living room and just looked straight up, it was just 40 feet of empty space, and it came to a point. And our fireplace went from the floor up to the ceiling, and it was also white stone. So on our fireplace, they put in so many arrowheads. All the arrowheads that they found while building the property, they put into the house. Which, I don't know. Again, if you have animism as part of your beliefs, I mean, everything has energy, everything has a spirit or a background or a life, essentially. So if you are welcoming that and literally building a home out of that, I mean, you are inviting any energy that came with that into the home. On top of that, I don't know if the people that lived there before us were spiritual or if they just had this really cool idea. And we didn't even realize that our home had this until living in our home for a couple of months. But soon we realized that in that living room, they built the house to face the sun and the moon as it traveled across the sky. So if you were in the living room, up on the ceiling, there were these 3 large windows, like super high up, and it literally traced the sun and the moon going across the sky. It was so cool, but also crazy because at night, when the moon would go by, the whole living room would shine like brilliant, bright white light, or more like blue light, into the living room from the moon. I just feel really lucky to have experienced something like that, and I never knew, you know what I mean? Like, I just never knew while I was living there how amazing it was to have something like that in your home. So, I mean, we could track the moon and the moon phases just by sitting in the living room and looking up at the windows. I don't know if the people who built the house, like if they had an intention for that. I'm assuming they did because it was perfect. It was matched perfect. Just a mild recap. We've got a dry creek bed that has a bunch of Native American artifacts. We have potential burial grounds on the property. Then we have a bunch of arrowheads built into the house and inside of the house and around the house. We have Mama Moon planting crystals and magical bags all around the property while communicating with spirits and procuring the house through magical means. And then we've got the moon tracking system. So I feel like all of those things are conducive towards a spiritually charged environment. I just think it's funny, man. As I've gotten older, I do wonder if it's not paranormal activity that I experienced, but that of the Fae. If you look into the Fae, it could potentially have been the Fae that I interacted with as a child. It could have also been spiritual activity. But then we also had creatures that were on the property that came out at night that were absolutely terrifying. If you want to hear of one of them, I think I talked about Mama Moon's Wendigo story. We also had some UFO activity out there, a bunch of weird glowing orbs and lights. But yeah, so I think having that house being so spiritually charged, or I don't know if we were on like a ley line, like I don't know, man, but it was just a hotbed for the strange and the bizarre. So once we arrived there, many strange and unusual happenings began to occur. And I do want to briefly talk about amplifiers. So I don't really know what else to call them, but I know for a fact that this is something between Mama Moon and I. And I have heard of other people having this experience as well. But basically, if you are around certain individuals, otherworldly, strange, clair experiences can be amplified if you are next to this person. And I don't know much about that. I've never read about that before. I don't know anybody who talks about stuff like that. It's just been like my personal observations that there are just some people that if I get next to them and them with me, it's like a mutual exchange kind of thing. If we combine, if our powers combine, what is that? Captain Planet? Oh my god. Anyways, my age. But yeah, like if our energies combine, we just get opened up. You know what I mean? Like it's just the energy gets amped. So me and Mama Moon, I think it started happening around this time when I was 5. And I honestly feel like it happened because of this little story that I'm about to tell you guys. So when I was little, when I was 5 and we moved into that house, I began having this experience over and over and over. And it was someone calling my name. So as a little girl, I would hear someone call my name like Valentine, Valentine. And it wasn't like a whisper. It was like a distant call. And for the longest time, I would ignore it. And so I have like vivid memories of being in that house as a little girl and just drawing. I would hear someone behind me calling my name. I would always be like, that's not possible. Because it's like, I'm not going to respond to that. I was a skeptical, untrusting child. So I was like, I'm not answering that call. So I continued to ignore the voice for a very, very long time. And eventually one day, I think I was like angry, but anyways, I remember being like irritated about something and I was drawing and I was like doing my stuff. I think I was probably mad at my brother because we fought all the time. And I remember this voice would not stop and it was just like, Valentine, Valentine. You know, like this distant call. And finally, I remember putting my marker down and being like, what? Like, what do you want? And just dead silence. And I never heard the voice again. Never again. I replied and I never heard it again. So I am of the belief that me replying was an opening. After that, things just happened. They just started pouring through. And the more and more I experienced things, especially at such a young age, the more open you are to the things around you. It's just a sense of being open to the experience. I think because of our society and us being raised with like facts and science, which are great. I believe in facts and science. Go to the doctor. If you're sick, don't use crystals. Go to the damn doctor, right? Like I am not out here saying like witchcraft is a cure-all. But I do think that we have closed ourselves off to some extent. And I think that's why a lot of children have more experiences. So I think me responding to that person, I think that opened a door. And the reason why I think my mom and I, when we're together, we're amplifiers is because I did not know this. I found out, I think when I was like 15 or maybe 14. And my mom was like, you know, there's so many things that I never have talked to you about. And she was like, well, I've got a story. When I was like a little girl, I used to hear someone calling my name all the time. What? You know, because I'd never told anyone that story. I thought I was crazy, you know? And sometimes people are not in the healthiest of mindsets when they hear voices. So please keep that in mind. I am not saying that if you are hearing voices, you're okay. Like, definitely make sure you're okay before you're like, oh, it's a spiritual activity. My mom told me that when she was little, she would hear someone like in the distance calling her name. And it started happening when my mom lived in France. Both sides are military families, so they would move a lot. They lived in this really, really old house. My mom would hear her name being called, and they would just say like, Mama Moon, Mama Moon. But my mom, way different than me. Mama Moon, the Pisces, she was like, hello, like would chat with this disembodied voice all the time. And whenever they would like sing-song her name, like Mama Moon, she'd be like, yes, and like sing back to them. I just think it's really telling that my mom's experience is so cute. Like her as like a whimsical little child singing back to like a disembodied voice, whereas I'm over here like, what do you want? You know, like super irritated. That just, it really fits our personalities. So my mom tells me that, and I mean, I was floored, like just absolutely floored. Anyways, I think my mom and I being together, I think the magical property, and I think me and my mom both replying to that voice as a child just opened us up to, and opened myself up to having these experiences. And again, always be mindful. I like really want to stress that. Always make sure you're in a good place mentally, emotionally. Therapy is always a good thing to have. And just discernment, you know what I mean? I'm not over here trying to encourage like straight fantasy hallucination stuff. Like that is not at all what I'm talking about. And I feel like people who promote witchcraft and journey work and path working and meditation and like working with deities, like I feel like it's not talked enough about that you have to be in a good place mentally and you have to have discernment. Along with hearing my name being called, something that I frequently had as a kid and that I still carry with me to this day is seeing smoke in a house. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like a past life thing. I don't know if I'm seeing an energy that's like following me around and it's appearing to me as like smoke. I can be walking down a hall or doing whatever and I will see almost like mist, like a big misty, smoky cloud, and it's everywhere. Like it's not like a floating being or something. Like it's like everywhere, and I have to like blink my eyes. I feel like sometimes I feel like either I've got makeup in my eyes or like sleep in my eyes. Like wherever I look, it's just like a veil of mist or smoke. So that's something that happened a lot as a kid, along with hearing my name being called, was the veil of mist. I also want to emphasize that the woods, I love the woods, okay? I love the country. I personally would kill to have property where I could be myself and have my witchy ways and have like an outdoor altar, which I am actually in the middle of building at my current house. So if my neighbors can see me, that would be an interesting thing to see. Let me know if y'all want to see that video. I'm wanting to be like more outdoorsy these days. I don't know why. Let me know in the comments if y'all are feeling the same tug. And I want to emphasize that I love the woods, because when I say this, I feel like some people might take this poorly, but the woods and the property at my childhood home, it changed when the sun went down. It was menacing. It was not comforting. During the day, I would explore the woods freely. I felt so confident. I felt so at peace. I was never afraid. There was never anything for me to fear. At night, I've talked about this before in one of my videos, I would like hold my breath while we drove up our driveway because I was convinced that if I looked into the woods, I would see something. And if I saw it and it knew that I saw it, it would attack us. I mean, I was like super scared of the woods, and I would hold my breath and like make wishes that like my family would make it through the woods as we went up our driveway. Like, I was terrified of our woods. And it's crazy because I love that home. I have so many fond memories of that home, but there was something in that woods that was not welcoming. There was actually one point my brother, myself, and my dad all saw something in the woods, and we like lied to my dad that we didn't see it because both my brother and I had the same sense of like, don't get out of the car, because my dad was going to get out of the car and go investigate. And my brother and I just looked at each other and we were like, we didn't see anything. We didn't see anything. And we just like straight lied our asses off to prevent my dad from going out in the woods. But yeah, so that was just one instance. I guess it is like the veil would thin at night on our property, and it was just more active, and it was just so much activity that it was intimidating. Like, I don't know if the woods necessarily were like evil or anything. It just felt completely different than it did during the day. And lastly, I don't know why the house would be haunted. It was a newer home, but there was definitely childlike entities that seemed to be living in our house. But I have many, many, many experiences. Childlike energy. I don't think it was anything more ominous than that. Like, outside of the house was a lot scarier than inside the house. You would hear like small feet running up and down the hall. We had a hall that had tile floor that extended from literally the furthest point of the house to the other furthest point of the house. You would hear like bare feet, almost like sticking on the tile, running down the tile. My brother had instances where he would call out my name because he would hear a young girl speaking in the hallway, and I was like, well, that wasn't me. Like, I'm nowhere near. My parents as well. I often got blamed for it though, and I'd be like, I'm nowhere near the freaking hallway, you guys. But they would hear like a little girl talking to herself, and then a lot of times just something running up and down the hallway. Another weird thing that I don't really know if this is paranormal or supernatural, weird things would appear on our property. So we lived in the middle of nowhere, and things would just appear, like stone circles out of nowhere, just like on our property. One time I found a stone circle. My dog was barking, so I wanted to make sure she was okay. Remember, my dog was barking, so I went to go find her, and she was barking at a stone circle. They would have had to walk past our kitchen and like living room to create this stone circle. Do you know what I mean? Like, the only way for someone to have been able to get into that area was for them to go through, because we had a fence like all around. So did our neighbors, like barbed wire fences, like all sorts of fences. Like we said, we had coyotes and mountain lions, and a lot of my neighbors had livestock. They had livestock. There was just things that would appear that were just super weird. Like it just didn't fit. So yeah, those were some little tidbits. So that is it, you guys. I am so sorry that this video took so long for me to get out to you. As you can see, I don't know if you can tell, but it's gotten a lot darker outside. So I need to wrap this video up. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'm so happy y'all were here. Let me know what y'all think, or just say hi down in the comments below. I really enjoy seeing you guys in the comments, especially all the familiar faces. It always makes me so happy. Like, y'all have no idea. You guys have a wonderful night, a wonderful day, and thanks for joining me for another Slumber Party Sunday. Bye, guys. Bye, 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 bye.